All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Energy for Sales podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend, Tally Weir. And she is not only a friend, but a high performance coach. She's been coaching a long time and she coaches executives. She coaches high performing sales folks. And the one thing, though, that I call it her secret sauce is, we coach folks on the art of the follow up. And I've always joked from day one that Tally will meet with you and she never has to do follow up because the meeting is so magnetic, what I call a magnetic conversation, and people seek her back out. And so, I think it's an art more than it is a science. And so I thought let's just pick Tally's brain today and introduce her to you. Certainly, if you're looking for somebody to take your life and business to the next level, Tally is here for you. But it's not a sales pitch for Tally today. This is about relationships and taking them deeper. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing the little slide here for the intro and introduce you guys to Tally. Tally, welcome to the Energy for Sales podcast.
Hey everybody, good to be here with you. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we talked about social media recently and talked about how to go deeper on social media from casual connection to meaningful, to living in the comments, to using those direct messages, to use your voice in the voice memo because your vocals have tone and energy and all that. But I think now, okay, how do you go to the next level? How do you take connection that's online or virtual into a in-person setting or virtual setting? I mean, we've met on Zoom many times, Tally, and it's not the same as in person, let's face it.
So,
But it's also there's some art to that. In fact, I think you taught me or you did a class with me for our audience the beginning of the pandemic about how to
Mm.
make Zoom meetings effective. And so
Yeah, I
if you guys
remember
are
that.
interested in that, like let me know. I'll pull that one out of the archives. But anyway, so Tally, like what comes to mind when you think going from virtual casual to deeper in-person
hmm hmm
connection?
Yeah, I think it's the heart connection. People can feel it when you are really present with them, when you're genuinely curious about them,
Mm.
when there is that heart connection. So I think that's what you're really always after, not getting whatever it is in front of people, but really connecting with them at a really heart level. I think that makes a huge, huge difference.
What kinds of questions do you ask, or what kinds of things are you looking for to open someone's heart? Because I think most of the time when we reach out, we're business professionals, we're salespeople, we're maybe a small business owner, and we're talking about us, we're talking about what we do, we're trying to.
Yeah,
I think so many times people's guards are up
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's how they're being connected with by most people on social media, reaching out, trying to solicit business. How do you move past all that? How do you see them as a person and really open their heart? Like, what are you looking for?
I think when you get really curious about what really matters to them, I think that softens that guard that we can tend to have up. When you can tell somebody's genuinely interested in what matters to you, I think it just brings like that wall down. So I think it's the relational, personal connection, asking questions about, like, I don't know what the context is of the interaction there, but if you can ask questions that are open-ended questions so that they're not going to lead to a yes or no, but it's an actual question that invites. So a question that starts with what or how often will move someone into that open-ended space where they're like able to kind of elaborate and talk
Hmm.
about whatever it is. So a lot of times for me, when I'm meeting with a potential client, I'm really curious about what their vision is. So it might be like, what is their vision around whatever commonality that you guys have, or whatever it is that's bringing you together into this conversation? Something like, so what would a home run be for you? And whatever it is that you're offering around this, and just really listen, because you're in more of a power position when you hear and
Hmm.
understand and are the one doing more of the listening than the one talking. So often the tendency is to kind of get whatever it is we have to offer in front of them and give them as much as we can on it with whatever window of time we have. But actually, if you can make that connection by really helping them feel seen and deeply heard and understood around what is important to them, I think that's where there's it opens something up for further relationship and conversation. And
Hmm.
my entire business has been built completely just on relational connection so far. Like all of my private coaching, it's just been connecting with people that I meet out in the world, sit next to on a plane, referral from other clients. It's been completely relational. And I think there's something really, really powerful in that relational connection space.
Wow. So, okay, you said something about asking an open-ended question about the commonality that you
Yeah.
share with them. So
Mhm.
let's take that in a couple scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're at an event together.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're at the event, I'm at the event. And truthfully, it's how we met. We met at a Lewis
Yeah.
House Summit of Greatness
Yeah.
event.
Yeah.
Which yesterday we had a couple Lewis House fans on the call. So
Ah,
pretty
fun.
cool. But anyway, so we meet and so you meet somebody and you're having a conversation, you're in line, you're sitting next to each other, you're at lunch together, you're out in the park community doing Lewis House experiential stuff
Yeah.
together, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you have this brief conversation, right? Or maybe it goes a little deeper. How do you follow that up without overthinking it? Like, how do you, outside of that event, now you have a commonality, but how do you go and follow up with them? And I mean, social media for sure makes it so easy.
Yeah.
Events make it easy because oftentimes you can share your contact information right there in the moment. But then the after, like the getting them to either meet with you virtually, obviously a big event like Lewis is, you might be meeting with somebody in Australia afterwards, right?
Yep. Yep.
Like some of our friends over
Yep.
there. But or you might be meeting with somebody locally that was there. So, but regardless, how do you reach out and not overthink that reach out?
I
How do
think
you reach
it's
out just to get
finding,
them?
yeah, yeah, finding something that you have that is valuable to what you've learned about what they need or want or their vision. So having, I mean, sometimes it's even just pictures. I'm a big picture taker, and so just sending photos of, our connection together, our time, a group shot, whatever, and then speaking to what you saw in that person that you just see as their strength, or you see as, I think often it's sharing your experience of that person, or a lot of times for me, I'll often pray for people and get some specific pieces of encouragement or something for them, something that comes to me when I'm thinking about them or praying for them or whatever. And I'll just share that. It's just like, hey, just want you to know how much I enjoyed connecting with you,
Mm,
meeting you. My experience of you is, warm, whatever it is, about that person. So if I was doing this with Tim, I would just say my experience of you is just incredible energy, heart connection, really genuine, authentic, cares about people. And I just want you to know how much I appreciated our time talking about, and I'll reference something in the connection, whatever was kind of
mm,
like the most um, heart connection that we experienced. I'll just kind of share what that meant to me, or like how I've thought about that conversation since that conversation, or, something that is just appreciating the person for who they are and how they impacted you, what you see, what you sensed, what you experienced through them,
mm,
or or any, like, it depends on what you guys talked about, obviously, but referencing specifics, something I was thinking about when you mentioned such and such, and I'm wondering if you'd find this valuable. And a lot of times it's just like giving away something when you're not necessarily going to get anything back. I think when we're just generous and free in our affirmation, in our, like, thinking about people that we know that could support their
mm.
vision, the resources that we have that could support our vision. Oh, when we talked about such and such, here's a link to that app or whatever it is, that might support what you're up to. I think it's just
Wow.
bringing as much value and being generous in our compliments, generous in our just support of whatever it is that they're up to. When people feel like you care about what is important to them and you're just there to support, it just like, I think it softens something. It builds a lot of trust and safety. And there's something, there's a reciprocity thing that just kind of shows up. Like people are like, oh man, that's so nice. Like I want to reciprocate that. I think it's just kind of in our
Wow.
humanness to want to give back. So yeah, I
Wow.
think it builds relationship when you do that.
I love that. So you said a few things, and of course, my brain and my systemization of what I hear. I heard affirmation.
Mhm.
So you're affirming something in that person you saw. You're appreciating the moment you shared. You're appreciating them for what they bring. You're great. You're sharing gratitude. So I heard affirmation, appreciation. I also heard kind of an ask of not necessarily when we coach all the time, the four most powerful words that most people never do, and therefore their business doesn't grow is ask for the business, right? But you flip that on its head. The ask there is more, would you find value in? Would you find value in? And I think actually, if I remember correctly, that was something very similar. It's funny you say pictures.
Mhm.
I call myself a photojournalist because I'm taking
Yes,
pictures and selfies and all this. And if there's somebody I really enjoy being around, or I make a connection that they know so and so, I'll snap
yes,
a selfie to send it to so and so because I'm like, hey, we got
yes,
to get a selfie for so and so,
yes,
tell them we
yes,
met.
yes.
But oftentimes
That's
I'll
great.
also send it to them, right? So it'll be like, hey, I sent this to Kevin. He said that was awesome. He loves you, and it's been too long. But thank you so
Yeah.
much. Our conversation was great. So I love that you went there because that's generosity, just to kind of thinking through. Or maybe there's a speaker. So yesterday on stage is a good relationship of ours, title company owner. It's her first time speaking on
Mhm.
stage doing a continuing education class. She knocked it out of the park. I had an overlapping session. So when I finished up speaking, I hopped in the back of the room and because I just wanted her to feel that she was important and her first time was important. But I also took my phone out and got a couple of sound bites of
Yes,
her
perfect.
speaking, kind of panned the room,
Yeah,
got the heads in there so it
yeah,
showed the full room
yes,
and then I got her cell phone afterwards so I could text those to her. And so I think the importance there or what you're sharing is what can you in that commonality when you're together, what can you do thinking about the future of like what would they value coming out of this? I tell salespeople all the time too, if you're at an event, think about all the people who might not have been able to be at the event. So if you
mhm,
can listen in, take some notes, put your mindset, and all of us see it differently, but if you can put
definitely.
your mindset on it and even reaching out to the people you knew maybe wanted to come, couldn't
Yeah,
come, hey, let's grab coffee.
so
I
good.
took great notes, would love to kind of
That's
give you the
great.
overview.
Great. That's
That's
great.
again generosity. So I think the ask that in my mind you flipped on its head is would this be valuable to you? Would my overview be valuable? Could we meet for
Yeah.
coffee and just talk? And so I love that. So affirmation, appreciation, and then asking that open-ended question of you know, or hey, what did you get out? Like what are your
Yeah.
top three things coming out of this that you're
Yes.
gonna that's how
Exactly.
you reached out to me, Tally. It was would you
Yeah.
find value in sitting down and discussing the summit of greatness and kind of what you're going to do with some of the stuff to move your coaching your book. I think at that moment in time I had a manuscript and
Mm,
you really did help me. In fact, I came out to a weekend retreat with you to really finish writing like
that's
two
right.
years
Yeah.
later. Do you remember this? So
Yeah,
it's
I
like
do.
all coming back just in this conversation. But it
Yeah.
was just about that. How can I help you? How can I help move
Yes.
you forward?
Yes. Yes.
So beautiful. All right. So they say yes. They say, yeah, I would find value in that. Now you're going to coffee or you're like, come over to the clubhouse or wherever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like wherever you're.
Yeah.
So, what does that look like? What does the setting look like for you? What is that conversation and going in,
Mm.
to have that lunch, that first time sitting down, human, like, how do you help them feel seen, heard,
Mhm.
loved when you're face to face?
Yeah. I often go right to their vision. Like if you could create anything in the next year, what is your vision? Like I just go right to what is it that they most want? When you think about your life, you think about what you're trying to create, what you most want, like what's your vision for what you want to create? And I just listen And a lot of times I'll just reflect back. And here's a really easy little way to just keep a conversation going, keep it on them, and just be able to really hear them. So there you just, say that, like, what are you passionate about, or what do you most want to see? Like some specific around what it is you're creating. So I know that you're doing this. I know that like this seems to be what one of your goals is. Like, what would be a home run for you if anything is possible in the next whatever it is you want to hear about? So ask them some kind of open-ended question around what they really care about. So
Mm,
often it's vision for me, because I just want to hear what is it that
mm,
you want to create in your life. And then just like feedback. Wow, it really sounds like, or it really feels like, or it really seems like, and then just reflect back what you sense or notice. And then they'll be like, yeah. And then they'll keep going. It's amazing. You can have an entire conversation just doing
mm.
sounds like, seems like, feels like, or repeating back literally some phrase that they say or word that they say. Wow, like passionate about whatever it is they said, just saying back to them, mirror back to them exactly what they say, or sounds like, seems like, feels like. You can do nothing else for an entire conversation. It's not even noticeable or weird. It's try it with somebody in your life, like today. Just have a conversation. Sounds like, seems like, feels like, and just saying back their words, like, wow, tell me more about, in some word that they just used. And
Mm.
just someone will just keep going and going. It's amazing and beautiful. And you just learn so much about them. If you come in genuinely curious to know what is in their heart, to know how you can support and serve them, it's amazing what opens up.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Sounds like, seems like, feels like. I love
Yeah.
frameworks, I do. Um, so that's awesome. And I really like this because it puts you, and you said it earlier, you said listening, active listening puts you in a position of power.
Mhm.
And not that you're looking to be in a position of power, but really at the end of the day, we don't listen well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
don't. I'm talking to me. I have a good friend, Allison O'Brien. She's a listening coach.
Mhm.
She's done sessions with us. And just hearing her speak, I'm like, wow, I've got a lot of learning and growth and
Isn't it?
exercise of my ear muscles to do because so many times I have an agenda. So many times I'm impatient. I want to move something forward. And so I'm getting into more of a microwave mentality as
Mhm.
opposed to a crockpot mentality
Mhm.
of asking those questions, digging into their vision, and sometimes too, exiting a conversation. Like a couple things you said resonated with me.
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna be chewing on them, but I have a few things sparking. I think you'll want to know about them. I'm gonna figure out how to clarify, get it, but I'm gonna be reaching back out to you because I have some ideas based on what you said or whatever. And even walking away with almost a loose, not
Yes.
so fabricated, because sometimes I want to leave with bullet point one, two, and three. Here's
Right.
how I'm gonna follow up with you, Tally. And it's like, and sometimes letting go
Yes.
of my agenda. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Again, you
Yeah.
know me well. That's who I am. I like to come out with the 3 point
Yeah.
outline so I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
follow up and do my thing.
Alliterated.
Yes, and that's fine. That's good. You should be listening for those things that, based on what you shared, Dally, I think there's something we should talk about. You might find value in, or would this be helpful? You can certainly draw the net, ask the question, see if you can set. I always believe in being like the hairstylist, set the next visit up
Yeah.
with them, set the next thing. That's all important. But sometimes it doesn't need to be this hard boxed in agenda because it's usually ours, which then puts me in that first visit with them into more of a moving it forward as
Yeah.
opposed to digging deeper and really mirroring and seems like, feels like, and I missed one, sounds like. There you go.
Yeah.
Seems,
It could
sounds,
be any
feel.
of those. It's just kind of mix it up.
So,
Wow, it sounds
yeah,
like you really, man, it feels like that means so much to you when you say, yeah,
yeah.
whatever the word is. Like, I just see your whole face light up, and you're just mirroring back, and people can feel your presence with them. They can feel your genuine interest in them. They can feel you right there. It's like
Hmm.
it really powerful because it is unique in our world, I think. I don't think it's something that happens even on a daily basis for a lot of people. So when you experience someone like that, it makes them want to lean in with you, you know.
Wow.
They find themselves leaning in and wanting more connection with you.
Wow. And even amongst our family, I mean, we're
Mhm.
so plugged in, right? For somebody just to actually truly see you, hear you, and help you feel loved. So, okay, how do you take that relationship deeper then? How do
Mhm.
you leave that conversation? How do you create traction
Mhm.
for either them to reach out to you and follow back up, or for you to reach back out to them? How do you set the next thing? How do you keep forward motion going?
And I think it's that thing that I mentioned before about looking for, as you're hearing what's in their heart, what they most really care are, you're kind of thinking like, how can I support that? What are things that I have? And sometimes it's even like nothing connected to what I'm selling them. Like
Hmm.
for me, when I'm having a conversation around a potential client to coach or a potential coach that wants to come into my training, I don't just want them as a client. I really genuinely only want to work with the people that are aligned for me to work with. So there's a little bit a sense of I'm kind of interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. And
Hmm.
that I think there's something in the dynamic that happens there where you're not attached to it being this one outcome that does something. I don't know how to explain it, but it almost feels kind of like a leaning back where I'm not trying to drive an agenda. I'm trying to like, how can I genuinely support you? And maybe that is what it is that I have to offer. And maybe that is something else. But I'm just genuinely wanting to know, how can I support this person?
Wow.
So I think there is something in the dynamic that as you have that, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it feels a little bit more like a lean back, just kind of like I'm not trying to drive something, I'm not trying to take something from you, I'm not trying to get anything from you. I just want to hear your heart. And if there's an alignment here, if there is a match here that this would support you, then like I want to offer it to you. And if there's not, like what else can I offer? Like how can I leave you better after this conversation with me than before we had this conversation? It's like if that is the come from, I don't know, I think it often tees up to they get themselves to the place where they're like, oh my gosh, I want to work with you. Like, I just want to have more interactions with you. Like, whatever that's going to take, like working together, whatever. So I think there is something in that. How can I leave you better than I found you? And what real value can I offer you?
Wow. So again, the seemingly intuitiveness
Mhm.
of not driving so hard for an agenda,
Yeah.
instead of leaning in, almost leaning back. And
Yeah,
and
it's
and
it's wild, but yeah.
wow, and being obedient to that heart posture instead of trying to control an outcome.
Yeah.
That
One has
that's
kind of a
discipline.
scarcity mentality, and the other has a real abundant mentality. Like, yes, I have a product or I have a service and I'm here to sell it. Like, but I genuinely want to know, like, okay, who are the connections for me? Where are the divine appointments? Where are the connections that God has for me to connect with different people? And, kind of whatever your experience of that is. There's I think a deeper trusting that I'm going to have everything that I need. And I just want to walk through life in a way that is leaving people better. And sometimes that's through some kind of, there's going to be a financial exchange and it's going to be directly tied to what you do. And sometimes it's just like leaving someone's heart better than before your conversation. And to me, that is a life really, really well
Wow.
lived.
Wow.
And I think when we get in that space, you're just sort of in an overflow of something that is abundant. And that mindset actually attracts people to you and makes them like want to give you money to work with you. I don't know how to explain it, but I think there is something just deeper that goes on there when you aren't you're not afraid, you're not needing, you're having to
Yeah.
grab at anything. It's like out of scarcity and into just this overflow of like an abundant, I'm going to have everything that I need. Just who is it that I'm meant to work with? And you're just kind of looking for where are those places that I'm
Wow.
supposed to.
Wow. And that mindset of abundance also breeds abundance. It attracts abundance because you
Yeah.
then are looking for opportunities, not necessarily outcomes. You're
Yes.
showing
Yes.
up, your posture now is leave them better. And
Yeah.
from that, what you're saying is that's the traction you're creating. And it almost feels like in that you aren't going to self-sabotage yourself, because I think when we're so outcome driven and it doesn't go our way, we self-sabotage, or we pivot from who we are, put on a
Mhm.
mask of who we aren't, so that then we can go control conversations and try.
Yes. Exactly.
And we can experience success in manipulating a conversation or doing it just right. We can experience success. There's definitely things that I think work for people and they're able, but it almost is like you're constantly chasing as
Mhm.
opposed to showing
Right.
up. Yes, you know your value. Yes, you know who you are. And so you're able to listen, leave them better, and sometimes leave knowing you're not the person, right? And being
Yeah.
clear with
Yeah.
that. So, but I love that the abundant posture
Yeah.
brings you into more, instead
And
of
it's not
the
even
scarcity
just
mindset.
not even just the sale of the thing that you're there for. It might you might walk away with something way more valuable if you come in with this mentality. Like you might end up leaving with them connecting you to somebody that like so much more valuable even than having them
Mm,
as a client. Or maybe it's something about your kid or like who knows, it's like when you look at all of life, not just my sales revenue or whatever, it's like seeing all of it as this place of generosity, giving and receiving. Like whatever it is that I am meant to give today to whoever shows up in
yeah.
front of me, whatever it is I'm meant to receive today, like I just want to be open to it all.
Wow. I love it. So good. So taking relationships deeper, having magnetic conversations. I call them magnetic because when you're abundant energy, that creates attraction, and you're going to attract what's supposed to be in your life. And the work, there's work involved, but it is not a stressful work.
Yeah,
It is a I want to say fun work, but I overuse the word fun because we believe sales can be a lot of fun.
yes,
But it
absolutely.
absolutely is. It's a fulfilling work. It is a fulfilling work. It's why you can go into say a bar at the airport, grab a quick sandwich right before your flight, have a 30-minute conversation with somebody. There's no outcome for you there. You're just making conversation, but you both land on a commonality. You share this moment, and this has happened multiple times. Tears are involved. They're
Yeah,
sharing something they've never shared with anybody. You're speaking life into them. You're seeing this divine moment open up in front of you, and you walk away. And how do you feel? You feel so full. You feel
yeah,
so purposeful. And with that, the world is your oyster. You could do
absolutely.
anything. And so
Absolutely.
living in that, imagine your sales career feeling more like
Yep.
an eternal calling. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And
Yep.
that's Tally, that's what you
Absolutely.
bring. That's what you bring to my life. And I knew when we were talking about deepening relationships and conversations, I was like, you have to be in on this conversation because
That's great.
I don't even want to say you do it so well, because you
Yeah,
don't probably see yourself like, oh, I do this so well, because it's not a
yeah.
process for you. This is truly a heart posture and a who you are as a human being posture, and then you show up and amazing things happen.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's just really I love people. I love getting to be used, giving and receiving. And it's like what you said about like just being in an airport. Like my client that I had yesterday is somebody that I met in an airport in the rental car line. We just got to connecting and talking, and it was just like what I was saying today. Like I'm not looking for a client in the rental car line. I'm just looking to be in overflow to someone, and then we ended up it's just you never
That's
know. You
powerful.
never know. I think when you just show up and seek to see people care about them and give whatever it is you have to give. It's like it's the most life-giving way to
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
anyway. And it's amazing what ends up happening, I think, in your business because of just living that way.
Yeah. Here's what I would encourage you guys as a takeaway from this. Think about somebody who showed up in your life and really truly saw you. There was no, it kind of like go back to the old movie, the White Christmas. I don't know if you guys have ever watched the old Bing Crosby, yeah, whatever. I'm a millennial, so whatever. I've seen the movie a couple of times. But when the girls are trying to, go on tour with them, or they're like following the guys around, and Bing keeps asking, "What's your angle? What's your angle?" And they really
Uh-huh.
don't have an angle. They just want to do what Bing and his partner do, and they just really truly love art and love music. They just want to do it. And he's like, "What's your angle?" Everybody has an angle. He can't understand these girls because they'll just there's no angle.
Mhm.
That's the posture. So think about somebody who's shown up into your life with no angle. They saw you, you felt heard, you felt loved. Just reflect on that. It might be great to reach out and thank them for that, but at the
Yeah,
same time, think about how they did it and try to replicate in that, or try
yeah,
to lean into that in your life more, and you'll watch relationships deepen.
yeah, yeah.
It's great stuff. Tally, thank you for joining us today. And y'all
Of
listen,
course.
Tally is an amazing person. You should absolutely try to at least have one conversation with and see if you don't leave wanting more. But her contact information is in the description of this episode. So please reach out and get to know Tally like I've gotten to know Tally. Tally, again, thank you.
So good being with you, Tim. Always.
Always.
Thanks, everybody.